6'4" and shadow long across the limestone ground. A young man with an old man's soul, looking for what can't be found. Born where the oak trees whisper secrets to the mountain mist, with a banjo on his shoulder and a spirit that won't desist. He's walking lines of the ancient pines where the static starts to hum, listening for a heartbeat like a slow and heavy drum. From the hollows of the buffalo to the ridges of the white, Jeb is tracking shadows through the middle of the night. He's a backwoods boogeyman on a frequency of gold, searching for the stories that the elders never told. Between the dog man's howl and the howler's lonely cry, he's chasing down the phantoms underneath the Ozark sky. Yeah, he's chasing down the phantoms underneath the Ozark sky. He's got a collection of the copper stills from the days of illegal grain, a rusting ghost of Mountain Dew and the scent of falling rain. Dreaming of a 40 Hudson with the fenders wide and low, to haul his gear through timber where the heavy cedars grow. He don't care for the radio or the hits of modern day. He wants the scratchy vinyl where the lonesome fiddles play. Just a cosmic outlaw boy with a deep and restless mind, leaving all the concrete and the city noise behind. He's a backwoods boogeyman on a frequency of gold, searching for the stories that the elders never told. Between the dog man's howl and the howler's lonely cry, he's chasing down the phantoms underneath the Ozark sky. Yeah, he's chasing down the phantoms underneath the Ozark sky.
Hello, welcome back to the Backwoods Boogeyman Podcast. I am your host, Jeb, and yesterday, so I threw a Arnold, I almost called it an Arnold Palmer, but I wouldn't throw an Arnold Palmer, but although I would imagine that would hurt getting hit with one, but a Fig Newton, and I think I hurt my wrist when I did it. But it kind of hurt when I did it, and it's been hurting today too. So I think I sustained damage from a Fig Newton, but I did chuck it pretty impressive distance, if I do say so myself. I don't know what the world record for Fig Newton yeeting is, but I'm pretty close, probably pretty close. Anyway, last week's episode, I don't know why it was cursed for some reason. It had some kind of phenomena going on with it, because I had every kind of issue, every kind of technical difficulty in recording it. My input kept rerouting it. My pan all of a sudden and I mean that's happened before. It just goes all the way to the left and doesn't. I have to reset crap, and it pisses me off. But anyway, so it was just a real bastard. And then there was uploading difficulties, that it uploaded that night instead of Monday night. So that's why you got it at 11 p.m. Central Thursday, because it was supposed to be 11 Central Monday, but it was Justin's fault. So that's the great and powerful mystery. I'd blame it on him. But anyway, because I am now under Cryptids of the Corn podcast, if you didn't know. So that means I can blame Justin when my episodes don't drop, because I've never done anything like that. I've never had those kinds of problems before, ever. But anyway, so hopefully this episode won't be as terrible as that one was. But And also, I think I lost my mind towards the end of it. But anyway, so I found something very interesting. Oh, I almost forgot your movie recommendation. I'm sure you're on the edge of your seat for right now. And remember how I said that, I was trying to theme my movie recommendation with whatever I was going to talk about this week, and I told you to be, prepared for disappointment because that's probably not going to last long. Well, look at me, third week here with a somewhat related movie that is themed with the episode. Because if you read the episode title, my movie recommendation this week is The Lost Boys, and which I had not seen until relatively, that's a new word that I can't say today, relatively recently, and it is great. So anyway, watch Lost Boys, and if you already have, watch it again. And I believe it is still free on Tubi at the moment. But so there you go. The more you know, because this week I will be talking about Arnold Paole. I I tried to figure out how to say this name, so I didn't do this when I started reading it. But I'm gonna just make up something and roll with it. Arnold Paole, Paole. I think Paole sounds better. This is why I had Arnold Palmer stuck in my head, but this is not the same Arnold. The vampire case that made Europe believe. So, let's get into it, shall we? Seems like I forgot to say that a couple episodes ago, but I've been on it. That's so yeah, that for at least the last two episodes. But 10 weeks. We got 10 weeks until Halloween. That's not a lot in my mind. Or I guess it would be. Well, no, it'd still be 10 weeks when you're hearing this because it's Monday, or maybe sometime tonight because uploading technical difficulties, as the French say, but that's because they can't do anything right. Anyway, in 1732, Austrian military surgeons examined 17 bodies in the Serbian village called Meveda. A signed report describing what they found: blood, still liquid, bodies undecomposed, villagers dead after claiming a returned soldier named Arnold Paole had bitten them. That signed document, the Visium et Repartum, reached Vienna, and then London, and then Paris. And they've got the cool little picture of the report. Terret sur les. This is the French version. I get. Oh yeah, it says Paris right there. That is in France, if you didn't know. Apparitions d'espèces sur les vampires. Ou les revenants de Honger. I'm going to read the rest of this in French because I'm fluent in it. I'm very fluid in French. Par les RP d'Am Augustin Calmet. Anyway, all kinds of Pepe Le Pew crap going on there. On January 26, 1737, in Belgrade, a military surgeon named Johann Fluckinger signed a document titled Visium et Repartum, seen and discovered. Two officers, that's what it means, is seen and discovered. I knew that, but I thought, you may not, so I thought I'd clarify because I'm very smart. Two officers and two further regimental surgeons countersigned. The document reported that a commission had opened the graves of a Serbian village called Meveda, examined 17 bodies with scalpels, or scalpers, as I was about to call them, and protocols, and found 12 of them, quote, quite complete and undecayed, their chest cavities filled with fresh, liquid blood. The commission had ordered the bodies decapitated, burned, and their ashes scattered in the West Moravo River. Within months, the report had been reprinted in over 100 Gazette articles from Vienna to London. It introduced the word vampire to the English, French, and German languages. It forced enlightened Europe to confront an unconfrontable question. What does it mean when an Imperial Army surgeon, signing under oath, confirms the existence of the undead? The Medveda case is a bureaucratic document. The Habsburg Empire's administrative machinery produced it, archived it, and left it where anyone could check. Folk tales fade, but paperwork does not. Unless it's all, put in the building and burned intentionally. I'm not saying what building that may be, but it's happened a lot over history. But anyway, the Habsburg clerks, I'll just let you come up with it on your own. There's multiple buildings. It could be. It's probably not the one you're thinking of, but anyway, the Habsburg's clerks spelled his name Arnold Paole. In Serbian, it was Arno Palv. The nickname is revealing. Arnold, or Arn, it's like one of those words like Arthur that I can't pronounce right, but was the Ottoman era term for Albanians, more broadly for soldiers of the Albanian inhabited frontier regions where Orthodox Serbs and Muslims and Albanians had clashed for centuries. He was Palv the Albanian. A man from the borderlands carrying a name marked him as an outsider even among outsiders. He arrived in Medveda in the early 1720s, one of many Hajdaks, which were outlaw fighters who were part bandit and part folk hero, who settled the depopulated Habsburg frontier after the Treaty of Persevitz in 1718. The treaty had transferred large parts of Serbia and Bosnia from the Ottoman Empire to the Habsburgs, creating the Militärgräns, the military frontier, a buffer zone where former outlaws were resettled as border guards in exchange for land and tax exemptions. Military command ran these communities. They carried their languages, their Orthodox faith, and their beliefs about the dead with them into a new political order. I can't remember how I decided to say his name. Paole was different from his neighbors. He spoke of things that unsettled them. In a place he called Gosova, almost certainly referring to Kosovo, something had attacked him. Something dead. He claimed to have survived through remedies that belonged to folk magic traditions in the region which he came from, consuming earth from the creature's grave and anointing himself with its blood. Around 1726, Paole fell from a hay wagon and broke his neck. The villagers buried him and tried to forget his unsettling stories. However, they could not. Within 30 days of Paole's burial, 4 villagers reported nighttime visitations, pressure on their chests, paralysis, and a figure resembling the dead Hajduk at the foot of their beds. The symptoms matched that of the Mora tradition. Match what the Mora tradition, I stumbled all over that, describes across the Balkans, the crushing weight of a nocturnal spirit. All 4 men died within weeks. So it's kind of old hag-ish with, this thing comes and sits on your chest all night and sucks your life force out of you and you die. And there's also, like, fae, across, like, Britain and, pretty much any Celtic area. Like, there's Scottish ones, there's Irish ones that kind of do the same kind of thing and whatnot. But anyway, where was I? That was a good yeah, now I can't do it. Yeah, well, anyway, setting that aside, 40 days after Paole's death, the village Hadnak, the elected headman of the frontier community, made his decision. They would open the grave. What they found has been preserved by the clinical language of later reports. The corpse was undecomposed. Fresh blood pooled at his eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. His veins bulged with fluid blood. The shroud, coffin, and clothes were soaked crimson. Old nails had fallen from his hands and feet, and new ones had grown in their place. They drove a stake through his heart. The corpse, according to the witnesses, let out a frightful shriek as if he were still alive, groaning as blood gushed from the wound. They cut off his head, burned the body, and disinterred his 4 victims and subjugated them to the same treatment. Or subjected. I can't read. I already read that. Just when I was building up the tension there, but that was the end of it anyway. For 5 years, it seemed to have worked. So, very typical, in Hammer horror fashion, they find the, find where he's buried. They'd pull him out of there, and like, he's all nasty and vile looking. He probably didn't smell too good either. I mean, just the description. I can't imagine he'd smell too good in that state. But anyway, they drag him out of there. They're like, his fingernails are doing all kinds of janky things. We don't like this, and they stick a stake through him. And I've heard some of the lore about it is you have to stake them down into the dirt, and you can't put another stake in them because that'll revive them. Apparently, I don't know why it would, but that's anyway. That's what I've heard. So it call back to Lost Boys. You don't want to stab them while they're just hanging up and hanging around. You don't want to just go up there Frog Brothers style and just and I believe that did kill him, but that's not lore accurate. I hate to tell you, but a horror movie was not lore accurate. But anyway, the second wave, because it's not over yet. No, not over. Then came the winter of 1731. In 6 weeks, at least 13 people died. Some lingered for months, others collapsed and were gone in 3 days, complaining of stabbing chest pains and unshakable fevers. Infants, children, young mothers, old women, the deaths cut across the village without pattern. The villagers already knew the source. They traced the contagion through the logic that internally consistent and, within their framework, perfectly rational. Militia, or Milica, Milikai, something like that, a neighbor had once eaten meat from a sheep killed by vampires before immigrating to Ottoman lands. Stana, a 20-year-old woman, dead in childbirth, had confessed to anointing herself with vampire blood as a prophylactic. What the hell? I mean, okay, so that's some kind of folk medicine, whatever, the vampire blood and all that. Like, here, get this. It continues to say a folk practice, but anyway, get this vampire blood and rub it all over yourself, and that's I'm sure that's good. But is this Milikai or Milika or whatever, Milick? It's something like that. It's Balkan. I don't know. They don't even know. But anyway, he's just stumbling along like, oh, look at this dead sheep. I think I'll eat it. Oh, it looks like it's been killed by vampires. They tend to do that. I thought that was a werewolf thing. They're always killing sheep, but whatever. I guess vampires can do it too, ripping off werewolves. But whatever. And werewolves are cooler though. That's my stance on it. And just deal with it. You're wrong if you think vampires are cooler. But anyway, so he's like, this sheep has clearly been killed by a vampire for it's got vampire stuff written on it or something. I don't know, but he's like, oh well, I'm gonna eat it anyway, and then he dies because you don't want to eat sheep killed by a vampire, evidently. But he did, and he died. Her infant had died right after birth, and in report notes had been half eaten by dogs after a careless burial. So that, whatever, sure, why not? By local reasoning, both women were contaminated, and both would rise. Oh, Milika is a woman, okay. That makes sense. Kind of sounds like a feminine name, but, okay, so she's the one that's out eating vampire-killed sheep. But, anyway, yeah, so there's that. And dingoes ate your baby, whatever. But, the villagers had traced the infection further back. Arnold Paole had not merely killed 4 people in 1726, he had also attacked cattle and sucked their blood. Now, I have heard, of course, of vampires attacking cattle, but sheep seem like that seems to be squarely in werewolf territory, but what do I know? And people had eaten the meat. I get it, it's like you don't want to waste it. But that moment of silence was me throwing my arms out in disappointment. But you don't want to waste it and whatever. Like when it rained meat in Kentucky in 1870s or something like that. They're like, oh, that's weird. There's meat falling out of the sky. Anyway, I'm gonna eat it. But I get it. You don't want to waste it and whatnot. I don't really want to kill it or eat anything that I don't kill. But I guess you do. If it's your only cow and it just got exsanguinated just in the middle of the night. Like I guess it makes sense you'd want to eat it. But if your cow just got exsanguinated in the middle of the night, doesn't it make sense? It must have been a vampire. It's not torn to bits, so it wasn't a werewolf. So probably a vampire. Probably means you're gonna turn into a vampire if you eat it. But whatever. Who am I to say? Continuing. The contagion had passed through the flesh and into the new host, dormant for 5 years. The vampire was a disease vector. The dead fed the living, and the living became the dead. So this is a very good setup for a movie or like a horror novel or something. But it biologically grounded, which is impressive considering it came out of 1718, or now we're in the 1720s. But it's not just like black magic. I mean, they're still burning witches in New England. So but I don't know. Evidently, the Balkans were very scientific at this time, very enlightened. Where was I? This is the contagion model that later fascinated European intellectuals. Infection passing from host to host through blood, flesh, and contact. In a world without germ theory, the logic was structurally identical to epidemiology. The mechanism was supernatural, but the reason was empirical. The Imperial Commission. Word reached the Austrian military command. Now this just sounds made up. Oberlieutenant Schnezzer, Top Lieutenant Schnezzer, that might have to be my. I already do have a name assigned. Okay, I'm gonna chase a rabbit for a second, but I already have a name assigned for tonight's or the episode I'm recording with Laurent tonight, and it's hilarious. But you'll have to wait until tomorrow for you to hear that. But on Cemetery Shrooms podcast, by the way, which is now on Apple. I'm not sure if it's on YouTube yet. That's something else. Mine is being funky about uploading to YouTube. YouTube is just kicking and screaming all the way, not wanting to do it. But you can find the Backwoods Boogeymen podcast on YouTube. There's like 4 episodes up, and they're very random. And I think they've each gotten about 5 views and no likes. So go there and give them all likes and just hit play and then buzz through it to the end and like and subscribe and hit the bell. I can say that now. Ooh, hit the bell, because you might actually be listening to me on YouTube. I doubt it, but you could be subscribe. Physically assault the bell button, and cool stuff. I'm gonna have to remember to say that at the end. But any whoosies, I don't remember. Oh yeah, Schnezzer. I'm gonna call myself that. Eventually, it might be my new nickname. Schnezzer faced a strategic problem. If the villagers panicked and fled, a section of the military frontier would collapse. The frontier existed to protect the Habsburg Empire from Ottoman incursion. Empty villages meant open borders. He dispatched General Glaser, the Imperial Contagions Medicus, stationed at Parisian, something like that. Never heard of it. The military physician responsible for epidemic diseases. Glaser arrived on December 12th of 1731, expecting the plague or typhus. He found nothing that matched any disease in his training. The villagers told him plainly. The deaths would continue until the vampires were destroyed. If the authorities refused to act, the people would leave. Glaser opened several graves. Most corpses showed no decay, bloated, swollen, mouths stained with dark fluid. He was shaken. He recommended that the authorities permit the villagers to execute the vampires. It was the only way to restore order. He also noted with a physician's instinct that the strict orthodox fasting practices of the community might be contributing to their weakened physical condition, a detail largely ignored in the sensation that followed. So there, all being good orthodox and whatnot and fasting, and just makes it easier for the vampire slash Boo-Hag slash Lian Shi to just come and murder them all while they sleep. So not great timing. That's me smacking my cup against the table. That was definitely very discreet. I'm sure you didn't notice that at all. Community Vienna's response was unprecedented. On January 7th of 1732, a formal commission descended upon Medveda. Military surgeon Johann Fleckinger, or Johann, not, I don't know why I'm saying Joanne, Johann Fleckinger, officers Butner and J.H. von, another made-up sounding name, J.H. von Lindenfels of the Alexandrian Regiment, and 2 additional military surgeons, Siegel and Johann Friedrich Baumgarten. There used to be, they're Baumgarts, I believe. There's a place called Baumgarts. It's I don't remember what it is. I don't remember if it's a furniture place or no. I think it's like a Rural King. It's not close to here, but I hear ads for it on the radio. But no, that's Baumgars. Anyway, bomb related things. 2 additional military, Friedrich Baumgart or Baumgarten. They came armed with scalpels and protocols. I think they already used that slang at the beginning, but that description, but whatever. They took 17 bodies out of the ground. Fleckinger's report reads like a medical document from a parallel world. 5 bodies had decomposed normally, but the 12 were quite complete and undecayed. Their chest cavities were filled with fresh, liquid blood that, Fleckinger noted with precision, had not coagulated as usual. Internal organs appeared healthy, skin was red and vivid. In several cases, old nails had fallen out and apparently new ones grown. The Hajdiks, the local outlaw type that were settled there, I wanted to make a reference to something, but I already forgot it. The Hajdiks assisting the commission remembered old militia as a thin, dried up in life. Thin and dried up. I don't know why I couldn't say that. Anyway, she was an old crone. In death, her body was plump, as though she'd been feeding, or she was just bloated and nasty looking. But I prefer the vampire explanation. But anyway. The commission recorded its diagnosis. I almost said diagnostics, like they're doing an inspection, but they are, in a way, just, with heads being cut off and fun things like that. The 12 corpses exhibited Vampirenstad, the vampiric condition. Under the commission's supervision, Roma, from the surrounding area, decapitated the bodies, burned them in pyres, and scattered the ashes in the west of Morova. Fleckinger signed the report in Belgrade on January 26 of 1732. 4 officers countersigned. I'm reading too fast. Countersigned as witnesses. The document was filed, but then it escaped. So they're, like, oh yeah, they're all nasty looking. They're not rotten. They've got, as aforementioned, nasty fingernails, and get those pesky Romas. They're dumb. I wonder if I have any Romas listening to. Maybe I don't know. Maybe probably not pure Romas. But funny mustache man kind of put a dent in them. But anyway, if I have any Roma or somewhat Romas, I'm sure Ileron is probably a Roma in some way. Some of his ancestors out on their abduction trips. But anyway, if you're Roma, leave me a 5-star review. Tell me what an idiot I am and how I mispronounced all these cities. What the surgeons actually saw. And this is where they debunk it, so I'm just going to quit reading now because it's not any fun. So, this has been the Backwoods Movement Podcast. Ring the bell. Modern forensic whatever that word is, modern forensic nonsense, explains every phenomena that disturbed Glazer and Fleckinger. Not one detail in the Visium et Repartum falls outside the range of normal post-mortem processes. The preserved bodies, the Morava River Valley I know of I know at least two science nerds that I'm gonna hear from about how I'm about to mispronounce this because I'm not gonna Google how to pronounce it. Alluvial alluvial fluvial. I nailed that. Fluvial soils. It sounds like something Dr. Seuss would come up with. But yeah. Anyway, it's got alluvial and fluvial soils, which is clay, loam, or clay and loam dense, poorly draining, waterlogged. And these soils create anoxic conditions that dramatically slow decomposition. Without oxygen, the aerobic bacteria cannot thrive. Casper's law. That is the friendly ghost. It's his law. Established in forensic science, states that decomposition in open air to water to buried soil follows a ratio of approximately 1 to 2 to 8. 1 week of decay in open air equals roughly 8 weeks in earth at the same temperature. Bodies buried in the cold, clay-rich soil during autumn or winter, the ground temperature is below 4 Celsius, which I think that would be around like, what would that be, like 15 or something like that Fahrenheit, but could remain in, no, it'd be less than that anyway, doesn't matter, I'm not going to do the math, could remain in remarkably, in, wait, 4, crap, yeah, no, never mind, I don't care, would remain in remarkably intact conditions for months. This also explains the puzzle that the Commission itself noticed, why some bodies were preserved while others were not. The answer is burial season. Bodies interred during cooler months had entered the ground when bacterial activity was minimal. Bodies buried in summer had been exposed to peak decomposition temperatures around 21 to 38 degrees Celsius, and were already well in advance to decay by January. The variable decomposition states that Fluckinger interpreted as evidence of vampirism were simply the result of different accumulated degree days. The forensic metric that tracks temperature exposure over time. The vampires were the winter burials, and the normal dead were the summer. The bloating. Putrefaction produces gases, hydrogen sulfide, methane, carbon dioxide, and ammonia. These gases accumulate in body cavities, inflating the torso and limbs. That would be interesting if they floated, but just out of the dirt, just like a little subterranean hot air balloon of gaseous rotten flesh. Though thin, Militia appeared plump in her grave because of anaerobic bacteria feeding on her. The pressure is substantial enough to produce putrefactive rigor, an apparent stiffness in the limbs caused by gas distension rather than muscular contraction. I think she's just a very ripped vampire, but what do I know? The blood. What the surgeons saw at the mouths, noses, and ears of the corpses was not blood of the living, or in the living sense. It was a purge fluid, which sounds just as nice as it is, a complex mixture of hemolyzed blood, red blood cells that have ruptured, releasing hemoglobin, or hemoglobin, as those of us who are intellectuals call it, liquefied soft tissue, gastrointestinal contents, and bacterial metabolic byproducts. Guts dripping out your ears. It's a terrible state. As the hemoglobin degrades, it produces I know how to pronounce these, but I can't remember. Methemoglobin and sulfohemoglobin, giving the fluid its characteristic reddish-brown to almost black appearance. Gas pressure in the abdomen and thorax forces this fluid upward through the esophagus and trachea and out of every available orifice. The reason it had not coagulated as usual is that the post-mortem blood does not clot normally. The enzyme fibrinolysin breaks down the clotting factors after death. I hope you were eating, listening to this on your nice pleasant lunch break with a nice turkey sandwich or some tomato soup or something, and a nice piece of Texas toast to go with your tomato soup, or just normal toast. Toast in general is good. I'm getting hungry thinking about toast I just ate, but toast is good, and also, guts dripping out your ears. The new nails and fresh skin. This is not a keratin growth, which is biologically impossible after death, that is, unless they're vampires. You gotta remember, vampires, they will grow their own toenails. Cell division requires glucose and oxygen derived from blood circulation. Unless they're vampires, you're not including the fact that vampires are special and they can do that. What happens is skin slippage, technically called desquamation. I've never heard that one before. Desquamation. Enzymes break down the bonds between the epidermis and the dermis. The outer skin peels away in sheets, often taking the nails with it. This process, sometimes called degleving, doesn't that sound nice? What remains is the underlying dermis, which appears pinkish, reddish, and disturbingly fresh because it was never exposed to the environment. Meanwhile, as the skin dehydrates, it retracts in the nail beds and hair follicles, making nail and hair appear to have grown longer. The scream. Decompressed putrefaction gases trapped in the chest cavity are suddenly released when a stake punctures the thorax. The gas rushes upward through the trachea and past the vocal cords. The sound is uncannily like a human groan. Forensic biologist Mark Benecke has documented this because he often digs up dead people and stabs them with stuff and you made a funny sound when I did that. But forensic biologist, Mark Benecke, dead people stabber, documented this occurs 2 to 3 weeks after death, precisely the time frame in which most vampire exhumations took place. The copious bleeding when staked is the same purge fluid ejected under gas pressure through the puncture wound. You get dead, presumed vampire, just doing their thing, being dead, whatever. You stab them, they go, all the gases escaping. There's putrefaction juices going everywhere. It's a Sergio Leone film, just blood and guts, and it sounds great. There is one additional factor that may have been at work in the Morava Valley. And just the words that I do not know how to pronounce in this. Adipocere formation, sometimes called grave wax. Oh, my favorite kind of wax. In waterlogged, oxygen-poor soil, body fat can undergo, here's another one, saponification, a chemical conversion into a waxy, soap-like substance that encases the body and preserves external features for months, years, or even centuries. The clay loam soils of the Morava Valley are precisely the type that promote adipocere formation, as documented in the case of the Tomaskia gravesite in Bosnia Herzegovina, showed the adipocere formation in similar Balkan clay, the bodies remaining recognizable after 21 years of burial. So you get some good what was his name? The guy that got rendered into a juicy liquid in the giant pot that was presumably made for like cooking candy in or something. Anthony Wayne, Mad Anthony. Yeah, so they get naturally Mad Anthony'd while in the grave. Good stuff. My favorite kind of wax. Where will we be without it? Nothing shines like grave wax. Paul Barber, whose 1888 study, Vampires, Burial, and Death, remains the definitive forensic... Oh wait, I've completely skipped over a part of this. None of this would have been known to 18th century surgeons. Fleckinger saw precisely what local folklore predicted. Corpses that had not died, bodies sustained by the blood of neighbors. He recorded and he observed and signed his name. A competent professional producing an honest account of phenomena his training could not explain. Paul Barber, whose 1988 study, Vampires, Burial, and Death, remains the definitive forensic analysis of historical vampire cases, made the essential point that folklore vampires look nothing like literary descendants, like they're written about descendants. I'm just moving on. The original vampire is bloated, ruddy-faced peasant corpse. The folklore description matches decomposing bodies precisely because that is exactly what it describes. Communities that buried their dead and occasionally exhumed them observed the same processes generated by the same explanations independently across cultures because decomposition process is the same everywhere. And that is the end of that article. It does go on a little bit more, but it pretty much talks about other cases that I'm going to do in different episodes that there isn't a whole lot on, so it's going to be a little vampire potluck. You know, not a Anthony Wayne potluck. No, I mean there might be grave wax. I don't know, but don't get your hopes up for it. Probably won't be a whole lot. Maybe it would. I don't know. But I will give you this, not to do with grave wax, but this fun fact: in Bosnia, no cat was allowed to walk over a loom's warp. If someone died wearing a linen shirt woven from that cloth, they would become a vampire. The chain of causation ran from the cat to the shred. Or to the thread, I can't read whatsoever, to the shirt, to the grave. So there you go, don't be letting cats go wandering, dilly-dallying across your looms, because that's how you get vampires. Logical. But, so there you go. Anyway, that was, wow, 40 minutes, good stuff. And I will be, they do go over more interesting stuff, but it'd probably be like another 15 minutes of just comparing this to other bizarre, obscure cases that you may not know about, because I haven't done them yet, and I like finding weird, obscure crap. So be on the lookout for Vampire Grab Bag or Vampire Potluck, or I don't know, I'll call it something dumb like that. And anyway, I think I've got another vampire movie I'm going to recommend. I can't remember now, but big surprise, I have a couple werewolf movies. It's not my fault that, werewolf movies are oftentimes great, but because werewolves are cooler than vampires, but what can I say? So there you go. Leave me a comment telling me if you agree and you're correct and you think werewolves are cooler, or if you're just an idiot and you think vampires are, wow, it's like, yeah, that thing, it's... You can kill it by stabbing it while it sleeps. That's pretty lame, I mean, you can kill most things by stabbing them while they sleep, but I mean, you ever seen the hell that they went through on dog soldiers trying to kill those werewolves? Yeah, they freaking tried to blow them up, and it didn't work. Like, you gotta stab them with that last scene with the sword when he's about to shove it in his mouth, but that is just nasty. That's probably the worst scene of the whole movie, because the sword's like going between his teeth. Anyway, setting that aside, because yes, that will be a recommendation, but I'll give you permission because it's an incredible movie and you should watch Dog Soldiers now. But that will be a recommendation eventually, of course. Big shocker. But anyway, any howsy hoosy. Setting that aside, if you're listening on YouTube, ring the bell, ring it. I don't really remember what the hell that does. I've got YouTube notifications. I just got a YouTube notification about something here, but anyway, some kind of nonsense. But I don't know. Ring it, ring the crap out of it, beat on it, just physically assault the bell for me. Thank you, and give me a like. I'm whoring for attention here in the last couple minutes. So. Anyway, setting that aside, don't let cats walk over your looms, and give me a 5-star review on Apple, and I'll read it on the show, and maybe on Spotify too if I see one. But anyhow, Uzis, glory be to God. I know. Bye.
And Jay's right behind. Cryptids of the corner coming just to see what they can find. 3 kings of the thicket, looking for the beast of myth, bound by the brotherhood and the mystery therewith. They're talking Bigfoot sightings and the tracks within the mud. It's written in the limestone and it's pumping through their blood, broadcasting from the wilderness where the cell light fades to black. Once you hear the banjo ring, there ain't no turning back. He's the backwoods boogeyman on a frequency of gold, searching for the stories that the elders never told. Between the dogman's howl and the howler's lonely cry, he's chasing down the phantoms underneath the Ozark sky. Yeah, he's chasing down the phantoms underneath the Ozark sky. Strap the collar history for the boys to understand. Walking with the boogeyman across the Ozark land. Yeah, we're walking with the boogeyman across the Ozark land.
You don't really get anything. You don't really get any kind of specials at the end of this episode. You waited, you maybe skipped ahead, whatever. You're excited for all the outtakes because you got like 10 minutes of them last week, but you don't get any. You don't get any. All my ranting is not done. I'm just saving it for Cemetery Shrooms podcast, which I'll be recording about an hour here with Udaran, and so there will be, I'm sure there will be ranting there, but no, they're probably, maybe at the beginning, maybe, but probably not. I think we may not act like children for the first time in doing that podcast, but we may not completely act like idiots the whole time because it is quite an interesting thing he's got lined up. I'm quite excited. I'm being very vague because you don't get to hear about it until tomorrow, but yeah, it's pretty cool anyway. Cemetery Shrooms also give them 5-star review and whatever and all that kind of fun stuff. I don't know if we're gonna read Revoirs. I forgot to call them Revoirs, but I don't know if we're going to read Revoirs on the Cemetery Shrooms or not. But I don't know. Still, leave Revoirs for the Cemetery Shrooms podcast. And I almost did the whole rigmarole of bye and all that again, but I forgot. I'm just saying random crap at the end of this episode because you didn't get anything. You didn't get anything. I wonder. Maybe we'll do 2. Maybe, I don't know, because we both have ranting we want to do. It's mostly just making fun of friends, but sleep token slander. That's, if you like sleep token, that's fine, whatever goats your float, that's fine, but it's Ghost. It's like Ghost. It looks really cool, it looks really badass, and then you listen to it and it's like, oh, this is like elevator music, but metal. It's just kind of not very. It's pretty underwhelming. Like, well, I just listened to 2 minutes of that, and it felt like about a half hour. But I feel nothing, and I'm gonna quit listening to it. But if you enjoy Sleep Token, that's cool. That's fine. It's just, you just know that you're wrong. You're probably mentally challenged. Somebody, no idea who it was, made the argument that if you like the same three like power chords, that you're probably autistic. I refute that. I don't think that's that you like the pattern of that's not. I'm not doing the Batman thing. It's just kind of similar. I'd never noticed it's similar. The Batman theme song is like sludge metal if it was surf rock. It's all about the amp. But anyway, there you go. I made at least 2 people mad, so that's good.